Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Out of Darkness to Find the Light. We do have a special guest today. His name is Alexander de Feria y Castro. That's how I said it. But he
Very
also goes
good.
by
Yes.
Alex. So
Just
we'll
do
make the
Alex
show.
for the
We'll
show.
party for the Alex today, buddy. Hey, thank you so much for joining us, Linda. Thank you.
You're
It's going to
welcome.
be a good show, everybody. We're going to just discuss a lot of topics. It sounds like to me, um, his background, Alex's background in business. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's born in Germany, has diverse parents from Russia. He has a very vast story to tell. So we're going to dive into the spirituality piece of it, also tie into some business as well aspects of it. And I think everybody will get a lot of information out of it, hope some knowledge to take forward with them. So with that, Linda, I'm going to hand it to you real quick. I know it's your friend. And again, Alex, thanks for being here today, man. Really appreciate it.
Well, I'm very excited for Alex to be here. We met almost 4 years ago and just connected immediately. And we both believe, him and I, that those kind of connections are soul connections, that it's meant to be and happen. And so I'm just very blessed to have him in my life. I just don't get to see him as much for anymore. I'm so excited for him to be here today. Okay,
Well,
so
no,
Alex,
thank you. Thank you, Lenny
Thank
and
you.
Linda. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for inviting me onto the show.
well,
Appreciate it.
we're glad to have you. So just,
Likewise.
Yeah. And
yeah,
I wanted to maybe add also that, I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. You are bringing in a podcast that has a theme which from darkness into the light. It touches everybody always at some point in one's life or multiple times in one's life, and if anybody of your listeners gets something out of it and helps them to move on in what current situation in their life they are, that is always a good thing. So I think you're doing a great thing, so good
thank
for
you.
you
Well, that
guys.
was our reasoning,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
thank you.
That's
We
where it all
appreciate
started. That's
that.
where it began.
Yeah, that's all it's about, helping others. Okay, so Alex, tell people about yourself.
Well, I'll try to make it short. But
It may be tough
so,
from
so
what I read,
anyway,
Alex.
as you guys have mentioned, I have a very complicated name. It's a Portuguese name, Alexander de Feria Castro. My father was from Tsaristic Russia. Or actually, my grandparents, they had to flee in the revolution, during the revolution, because they were at the court of the Tsar. They had to flee to the estates in Lithuania. That was where my father was born. And then when the communists, the Soviets in the Second World War, pushed out, they had to flee their estates in Lithuania, they had to leave everything back with nothing. They got to Germany. But obviously came from this nobility, very, very high sophisticated background. And my father started basically went to school there, becoming a very prominent lawyer in Germany. So in my life, I was dictated obviously by his view of the world, which was a very materialistic view, which was a very, societies and how to act and what to do. Now, on the other hand, my mother, first generation American from Virginia, was in the 50s, went to school and to college in the 50s, which back in the 50s, obviously, women were supposed to, go to high school and then make a family and do the kitchen work and do the school work. But she was, say, one of the first feminists that said, "I'm not doing that. I'm going to college and I'm going to get an education. And further on, above that, I'm not going to stay in the U.S. I want to see the world." And she joined actually the Air Force as a teacher and moved to Germany. That's how my parents met. But she was this very, very spiritual person, the feminist, very in tune to nature, very in tune to the whole spiritual life. Whereas on the opposite, and you say always opposites attract, my father was that. So I have two siblings as well, and those were basically my two forces I was always looking upon. So I was already there, always thrown between how do I combine that, and through life after college, I went to the U.S. And so on. I started my corporate career with DuPont, doing I did 24 years of age, divestitures and IPOs, which 2 years corporate didn't go, and I went into business of my own, becoming a serial entrepreneur for many, many different things. But at one point, I went to Russia and was the largest chocolate distributor in Russia, 250 employees, and I was in my late 20s then at that time, early 30s, living the dream. I had $110 million company a year, thousands of trucks, lots of cash back then, dropping off. I had warehouses. People were coming in.
Hold on, Alex. Are you telling me you were like the Willy Wonka of Russia?
I was called the chocolate baron of Russia at one point, which is
That's what
actually
I'm talking
laughable.
about.
But it was pretty fun.
Yeah, baby.
And I'm not saying that to impress people. I'm saying that
No, I
because
love it.
I was so driven by, at that point, well, in my childhood, I was always out in nature, climbing trees when I finished school, running out and connecting to that. But as I grew older, I was driven back to the more, I would say, to my father's side. And you have to be something, you have to become something, you have to do that. But I always was missing something. There was always something that was missing. And like I was, making fist, and especially at a young age, although I was coming from old money, the ego completely took over. So, how do you align your unconscious, your higher self, and your ego? And when ego takes over, it's never a good thing, obviously. So, and the universe has a way of teaching you, and then and if you don't listen, it tries to give you a
We're going to teach
message.
you again.
And then it said, I'm done, and this is what I'm going to do. And it's always uglier than if you would do it yourself. So kind of that happened to me within, one night I lost all of my fortunes. There was the Japanese meltdown back in 98, and that toppled Russia, and all my money in the banks were gone. So I went from 120 million, making 20 million, 20 million of my own money, profit gone. So here it was, having young kids that were, I think, let me see, 98, my twins were born. I had a son, really young. Everything gone, everything I built up that I perceived to be the typical stereotype, we are who we are, what we present to the outside. And utter defeat, basically. Friends that you thought were friends, business partners, we're always there, we do everything. When the dust settles, you look around, you're the only one standing there. So I had to walk the shame and go to my suppliers, which at the time I was exclusive for Nestle, Ferrero, big companies. I even had at one point Kellogg's and so on. So I had to work with them, with the board of directors. I had to work it out, but it was a rough time because you fall into this really, really dark pit, right? You fall into darkness, and everybody has different traumas, and it's all relative. I mean, it's not to say I had other traumas too in childhood, but I want to talk because a lot about the business, because this is why I think I'm on the show too, being a serial entrepreneur and trying to bring in the spirituality. So
Absolutely.
it kind of put me in a place where I had to have a choice. Do I just succumb and be in darkness and depressed and nothing works out? The whole world is against me, the typical victim mentality. Nothing I do is right. And where does that actually stem from? Or do I stand up and try to move bit for bit and figure out what has happened? Why wasn't I listening to certain things? Yes, one can say, well, these were outside factors that had you, but it is more inside yourself. What and how do you do so? In the worst of your situations and the hardships, what you can do, that is where your character is tested the most. That is how you really, who are you? That is really, you shines light on who are you truly. How do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with trauma? How do you deal with your morality? And do you stand and walk the line and walk in truth? Or do you give up and just say, this was fun, I leave, or
Yep.
Yeah.
or and I get it. A lot of people I mean, thoughts like that come in. And if you're in your most desperate
Yeah.
moments, you are just despairing. But these are tests, and I truly believe that we are faced, and that's why I want to come later on to the podcast where our true purpose lies, and we'll circle into that. Is these are tests, and we are given these tests only if we're meant we can really handle them, and because otherwise there would be no reason for you to go through these. And I know there's some in the audience, well, this happened to me, and this was unfair, and so on, but it is still a test of how you deal with it and how you take what you believe in and what your purpose is in life to the next level, and how do you move on. Now, just because you've gone through that doesn't mean you're done. It is like,
No.
it's like you move up a notch, so finally you're like, oh, I get it, and then you ponder on, and you get another test, another challenge. And these challenges, and it happened to me 2008, if you want to go back to business. So here I was on the ground, I built everything up. I was already in real estate development and building at the time, which I guess was a good thing for me, because that kind of I kind of was able to bring that up. But I stayed in real estate development. I left Germany and came to the States. I'm jumping forward a few years now, and then 2008 obviously happened. So I also had a very big loss. I fell into another deep hole. So that just shows you, don't kid yourself. You either stray from the path again, and you have to start trying to be aware why you're doing that, because we sabotage ourselves all the time, and without us knowing it, right?
That's
Oh
really a
yeah.
point.
Oh
It's
yeah.
That's a really key point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
I
no, go
want
ahead.
people to understand we create martyrdom for ourselves and self-sabotage all the time.
All the
So I
time, and
love the point. Love it.
that's why we digress from what really our true intention is,
Mhm.
and we get, I don't know, lured by certain temptations, and maybe that's what they call, hell or whatever, and demons are luring you away if you believe
Yeah,
in
they
religion.
out there.
But we get lured, or we forget, or we ultimately we're just human, the human experience. So we just trudge on, and everything seems fine and so on, and then it hits you again. But it is another test to either wake you up again, or to test something else that you need to learn. And you cannot learn something if you don't know something, if you haven't experienced it, at least on this plane, on this dimension, where right here on the physical earth. It is that, I mean, it's like when you've lived all yours in a valley, in a house, and you're looking at the mountain range, and that's all you know, that's all you see, but you don't know what's behind it. For all purposes, there could be, little purple men running around, standing on their head and doing stuff. You wouldn't believe it. But if you actually venture out without all the tribulations of climbing that mountain, almost falling, and snow and cold and hypothermia, but you finally get to the point and you see the next level, there's this whole new horizon with all these new influences. You could have never fathomed what it was before. So now you're there and like, oh, this is new. So you have gained whole new experiences that has brought you in a whole new tolerance level in or what have you. But that is what you've learned, and now you move on. But that's not the end either.
Right.
Of the horizon, another mountain. So behind that lies something else, and that's the same in life, ultimately.
Mm.
And so, if you're in this darkness, in this chamber, in this utterly darkness of where you're being held, by the chains of your own demons, and you're almost there to give up. It's usually when it's you're the most desperate in any situation you are. I felt in my own experiences that even if you barely can breathe, you can't even, you push on one little step. That is where you gain the most muscle, and when you work out, or that's where you gain the most spiritual, emotional, psychologically to power through life and move on. You never can give up. You have that willpower one more time, and I want to call it, and we'll get to that, intentionality.
Mhm.
You pull through, and then suddenly you see the silver lining at the end, and that gives you that hope and that more movement to go on, and that's what basically has kept me going on through life. Although I've had a lot of financially, obviously, for a lot of people that is certainty, and then you have uncertainty, and you fall in these holes. By the way, I now that I'm wiser and older believe that um, the different characters. Some can thrive only on certainty, but uncertainty is the essence of life in some way. It makes everything interesting, right? Uncertainty, you gain the most experiences, because if you plan and analyze everything out, and I know a lot of people out there like that. I will not do these decisions if I don't know this will be in place, this will be in place, this will be in place. But by doing so, they miss out on a lot of opportunities that might excel them in the trajectory way further, especially in the spiritual seeking and knowledge and so on, because they just follow that path rather than looking left and right. And there might be these doors they could have walked through, because in uncertainty, again, what happens in uncertainty, as in your darkness, you need to look with inside you. You need to look of who you are, what do you have, and how can you manage. It's the same with, we all are seekers of knowledge, and want to learn, or most of us, hopefully. And we listen, and we go to, spiritual teachers or gurus, or just whatever, even not in the spiritual realm. But at some point, you learned what your master has taught to you, but you need to step out that safety net that
Exactly.
you're always looking for. Oh, is it right what I'm doing? Okay, what you asked me, it's this and this answer, right? No, you need to step out without that safety net in order, and that's when you learn the most, right? That is when it's uncomfortable. You need to kind of, you're falling through the air, and then you have to figure out how you manage to get to the top. That's when your creativity starts kicking in. That's when your belief is kicking in. Believe in yourself. That is when the trust of who you are kicks in.
Well, and I think too, for me, it's all about resilience. So these tests that we go through, these challenges or whatever, it's to see our resilience and how we're going to get to the authenticity of who we really are meant to be, you know.
Yeah.
And and so it's uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. And if, I'm a planner, always have been, that's part of the education piece with me though. You have to plan, you have to do da 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 da. But the hardest thing that I have found is just let go.
Yeah.
Just let go. And I have jumped off the edge several different times throughout my life that I thought I would never do. And things, my world broadened, it widened and so forth. But it's hard.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Well, it's hard because we're all scared. The
Yes.
fear of the unknown. And now we're touching on a huge word, fear. Fear
Fear.
is what holds us always back. It all comes back down to fear. I mean, we all had traumas. We're trying to not get into that shame, into that guilt, or what have you. But fear is a big thing. But once you let go and you go yourself, that is when all the opportunities come up. Because if you believe in that, and you live in believe in your higher self and your higher consciousness, they know way better than our ego does, right?
Mhm.
Our ego thinks we need this and that and that, but if you just let go at some point and trust, there's a bigger plan, and there's something that will happen that will be a better path for you. That's we would never get that on our own.
Haven't you found too that something that I would like people to really understand is, and I've had many different types of teachers, right, on this spiritual journey. But it all comes down to, what do we feel in our gut? What do we feel in our heart? And remember, teachers are just that, they're human. And what I find is that some people follow somebody and they follow it to the nth degree, but I don't see where they're learning to take that in, work with it, and then go out here and do. Does that make sense? I might not be
Makes
saying
it
it
no, no,
right, but
100%. I
I
agree
I
with
want
you.
people to understand that still use your gut, still use your heart, because teachers are human too.
Yeah.
And they're
Well,
evolving day to day, moment to moment, just like we hope we are,
no, no,
And
100%. 100%. I agree. I agree.
nobody's a god. Nobody's a god.
First of all, that, and if they think they're God in that way, or they think they know it all, they have already lost the path of the
Yeah.
spirituality, because it's all we're humble and so on. Teachers, in any form, not only in spirituality, should be there to see and recognize the potential in the student, in yourself,
Mhm.
and help them to progress with the tools that will make them the best version of themselves, which is in most cases, or most likelihood, and probably 100% very different from their own, because we are all individuals. We're
Exactly.
not robots that are the same. Because we are individuals, we are all the same. So going and learning from a master, from a teacher, and whatever, you take, when it comes to your gut reaction, your intuition, what seems right, what feels right, and then you adapt that to your own style, to your own personality, to your own energy. And that is how it can only happen, and how it can only be. And that's why that there is this individuality out there. And that's how true. But you touched also on a huge point, which is you walk in your integrity, right? So I mean, integrity. If you have walked in some point of your life in your integrity, and I believe most people have in some shape, way, or form, you walk in your truth, and you walk in your balance, in your middle, you walk in your power.
Yeah,
And
your
once,
authenticity. Mhm.
and your authenticity, right? And being in authenticity, you walk without fear. In those moments, you just are. You don't care what society says, what friends says, what people say, what the naysayer says. What you have to say, it's with absolute authenticity and with courage, that you don't think twice. You are just what you are. And everybody then, if you've noticed, if you've ever walked in that, listens to you. Even your enemies, even your naysayers, even those that try to ridicule, they back off because of the authenticity of your energy, because you're aligned. You know that everything is right. In that moment, I truly believe you're aligned with your soul purpose, why you came here, because only then you walk in truth and authenticity. And fear has no place there. And you can do anything, even if you're saying against everybody else that's saying, and you know that is what you're doing is the right thing, or saying that is authentic, and you act upon it. That is what it. But some people,
That's also that's also our vibrational frequency
yeah,
that draws people to us,
exactly,
that
exactly,
want
yeah,
to be within our space.
yeah.
Because I don't know, haven't you felt, I mean, I have actually been in situations where I knew that for whatever reason, it took me a long time to understand this, but people, you would just get this feeling, that people were drawing away from you. Does that make sense in a way? But at the same time, you're thinking, I know that what I'm feeling and what I'm doing is right. So then I had to learn how to be okay with, I'm different. I'm a little different. And
Mhm.
how you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
And it's okay to
that's a
be
hard
different.
thing to do, because people want to be liked, they want to be
We
whatever,
all
but sometimes,
humans thrive from being recognized, to get
yeah,
acclamations and be accolade, and then and most people have the herd mentality. So if you're different, you try to conform, but it's not you, and you
no, it
don't feel
doesn't work.
comfortable, and so on. But you just don't want to. But if you walk in your power, you stand outside of the crowd, and you do what's right for you. Because here we are. I mean, we are the architects of our own reality.
Yeah.
We are the authors of our life story. And that's all it's different than everybody else's. So what fits for them, or what they think in their belief is not yours, because you're writing that. And we have to follow that. And that is why we come to this earth with a soul contract. So
Hmm.
before we come to Earth, we say, this isn't this what I want to learn. This is what my soul purpose, and that is what our spiritual longing is on this earth all along. And if we don't follow that, and we digress from it, we feel uncomfortable, or we hide beside other desires, and make it and make so. That's very important, that we try to seek that. And that's why most people are unhappy, because they're not truly living the life they were supposed to be living, or the life, and it can be very different, and we sometimes forget. And And in life, sometimes you can have more soul purpose once you've fulfilled your soul purpose. You know, you can do that. But finding that, I think, is very important. I mean, so everything is energy, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, I'm always worried about parents, you know, young children with young children. And Lenny and I've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I think what we're talking about, or what I want parents to kind of hold on to this, is recognize that your children, while you may want them to be mini me's, please understand that they have their own soul contract. You know,
Yes.
they have their own purpose in life, and your job should be to help them find it, guide it, whatever. But I really, in all the years that I've been in education and taught children and adults and so forth, my greatest hurt is that children feel like they have to do something because the parent wants them in this sport or they want them in this. And it's like, it's not me. That's not really what I want. You know what I'm saying? So I think that another way to just help so that we can kind of break some of these, you know, because in my generation was kind of standard about how my dad thought kids should be seen, not heard, you know, that kind of
Yep.
thing.
Yeah.
And anybody knows me, that's a really hard thing because I'm gonna, you know. So yeah, so I just think that with young parents and
Yeah,
they're
we
busy, and I
suffocate. We
understand
tend to
that.
suffocate them too much. No?
Just
Helicopter
understand that
parents
they're their own person, you know, and that's a really hard thing.
Yeah.
So,
can be.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get us off track, but I
No,
thought
no, no. It's an
No, it's
important
on
point.
track. Absolutely.
No, it's a very
I like
important.
the other point you made, Alex, earlier. I was going to touch upon is giving up. You know, I would say majority of people, if they just would have hung on a little bit longer, you know, the next call, the next opportunity came by instead of quitting, maybe, you
Mhm.
know, the opportunity before that, they would have made it, you know, and that's the difference probably within yourselves, within ourselves. We all have had setbacks, but we've all probably thought about just saying, forget it as well, burn it all down. But also, you have to tell yourself, okay, there's going to be something else come up. I just can't stop just yet. I'm going to keep going. And if I do, there's something to come out at the other side of this door. And in most cases, that is the truth. But so many people just give up too soon because of a setback or somebody they were told no. And man, if they just would have hung on just a little bit longer, they probably would have made it. Do you agree with that, Alex?
No, I could agree 100% with that, and we all have it in each other to move
Yeah.
on. We all have it in it on a physical level, but more so on a mental, spiritual, psychological level that we can push on. We just have to defeat our demons. And I mean, in a way, we're all warriors on our journey. You know, not only the physical ones and so on, but what I agree with that, and I want to touch on that. Maybe I used to do Japanese sword fighting, kendo. You know, that derived from the samurai sword fighting in my 20s into the 30s, and so on. And I was really into this whole martial arts stuff and so on. And the Japanese, there was is an old saying from an unknown author, a Japanese warrior that is Nanakrobi Yaoki. And what it means is that you fall 7 times, you rise an eighth. And that's coming to this point where you have to push through. So if you want to go back to like the warrior thing, the honor and protecting back in Japanese in the 1500 or whatever, your lord was, if you were defeated or you couldn't protect him, there was so much shame on youth, so they did harakiri and had to and kill themselves because they couldn't live
Yeah.
with the guilt and the shame.
Mhm.
But this says no, don't do that. It is worth living on because it's shame in dying because you're dying too early on the purpose of your life. You've been here, right? The purpose of your life is to continue on, push through shame, push through guilt. That is honor. Continuing on, have the resilience to move on. So if you fall, and we all fall, we all have setbacks,
yeah.
we all have downfalls in embarrassments where we screwed up and we have to get up. Like I had to walk
Facts.
through the big boards and say, "Your money's gone, but what can I do?" Or embarrassments, and we all. It's very uncomfortable. Or your friend circle, I have no more money. I was the big guy, and whatever. So or we setbacks and traumas and childhood abuse and so on, which are very, horrendous, physical and sexual and abuses
Yeah.
and so on. But what is your choice? You give up, or you live on to live your life. You need more courage for that, to
Mm.
face your shame, your guilt, and so on, but to keep on going and doing that. So if you fall 100 times, 1,000 times, you get up 101 times. You get up 1,001, because what you've learned something. You've gotten stronger, you've gotten better, you've gotten wiser, you've gotten more knowledge. So that's why I like that kind of proverb, because that is
Yeah.
what life and our journey entails. Get back up on your feet and be stronger for it and move forward. And
Absolutely.
Well,
so
and don't you think too, all of those times that we fall and we get back up, we've gained wisdom.
no,
And so
100%.
then,
Yeah.
we can, that wisdom then should be shared,
Yeah.
I'm here now. I've made a ton of mistakes, but I'm still standing,
Yeah. And
There's a
Hmm.
because of the
wisdom in
mistakes, you
that.
have all that wisdom. Because of the
Yes.
mistakes you learned, your emotions, your feelings, and what comes out of it, and what you did. And so yes, you push through, and you'll be the better of it. And once you push through, you're like, wow, I did stand
Yeah.
up again. Wow,
Mhm.
this is a positive reinforcement. So the next time it stacks on that, and you come out of that negativity of fear. And maybe I don't know, maybe I'll divert real quick here, because if we're talking about fear, which is our biggest enemy and our biggest
Mhm.
fallback, and there are many ways of fears, we have fear of everything. That is probably the lowest form of energy, right? And
Yeah.
we all come from energy. Everything is around us is energy, right? The sound, the words, the vibration is energy. The table is really energy. If you
Yeah.
look in, you all know physics has proved that actually, it goes so down. Actually, it's immaterial, everything, but it's all energy in some
Just once we
form.
name it, it becomes
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah,
If you
that's
look at
true.
quantum
So
physics, that kind of thing.
yeah, so with and the frequencies of energy matter. So if we live in a fear-based state, we have very low energy. So everything becomes very dense, everything becomes problematic. We are prone for depression, and life sucks and everything. But your higher your consciousness evolves, the higher we grow in energy. And love has the highest energy in that way. And if and that's also one of the hardest states to be in. So
Hmm.
if because we're also vulnerable, right? But vulnerability and love and you're opening up is important. So a lot of what I've learned and with myself, but seeing in people that, when I try to heal them or talk to them or coach them or mentor them and so on, I can sense that they're grasped by this fear of all sorts of traumas they realize, and through those the belief systems. So the energy is running low. But in order to come to your true purpose, to your life's purpose, is all about love. But you cannot have full love or the high frequency of love if you do not love yourself. It all starts with loving yourself. That is probably one of the most important ingredients. If you do not love yourself, you look always poorly on yourself, and in your mind, your belief system is always in this negative spin of "I'm not good enough. I had physical abuse or sexual abuse. It was my fault. I'm the victim. It's shame."
Oh, you just froze.
We're touching on high intensity stuff. We're getting
I
We
know.
blasted.
yeah,
So
we
we're
missed the
getting
best part.
some technology things. Uh-huh.
Anyway, I don't know. Where did I lose
Our
you?
phones.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking, the importance of learning to love yourself. That,
Yeah. Self-love is
if you
key.
can't love yourself, it's very hard to really give love in the way that it needs, just to give love.
No. Oh,
Very, very
exactly. Yeah.
can't.
And
So you have to really, and this is why I believe that the individual work that we need to do within our duality and ourself is so important, because we've got to learn to love ourselves, and then that is what radiates out that beautiful vibration, that we
yeah,
need to draw and attract others
exactly.
into
And
our
with the
sphere.
self-love, we can start with unconditional love, and that also has, you have to live with intentionality, to
Being
do that.
intentional about what you do.
I like that.
Yeah. Mhm. So,
Lenny, I know you had some other questions for him.
I mean, there's so many that we can go over,
I
but
know.
and you're touching upon something that Linda and I have both touched upon in our illumination series. Not in a lot of detail because those are shorter segments, right? But I can tell you that I think we're on the right track, Linda, because what Alex is speaking of, we're speaking about as well, and it does make sense. It all comes together at some point to where it's all about vibrations. And we spoke about that before. There's these other people that feed off negative energy, and then most of us thrive in a positive environment, right? So I think the goal in any situation or in any life or any soul is to keep that vibration high as you possibly can. Are you going to have setbacks? Absolutely, right? We all do every day, either intentional or non intentional. Uh, but if you come back from keep the vibration high, in most cases, you'll come back from it better than you were prior to.
Mhm.
mhm.
If that makes sense. I hope
And I
you
think less
guys agree with
time
that.
too,
But
don't you?
less time
That
over, yeah, of
that
course.
I don't know about you all, but when I fall, I have to make a conscious effort that, okay, I'm going to have my pity party for just a few minutes or an hour or a day, whatever. But then I'm done. I gotta move on. I try to really do that, and it's hard, and I know it is.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to just always be facing forward.
Yeah, and be in a higher vibration. So, I mean, Lindy, you said that some people live in the negative, but they cannot. Their belief system is pulling them down. They have to
Mhm.
release that in some point, because the higher we send energy out, and as we receive energy. But if we want to change consciousness and the world consciousness and our consciousness, we need to try to be more positive in that energy than negative. I mean, we shouldn't forget that because everything is energy. Actually, the the inner world manifests outside, not the other way around. So what is outside, our inner reality reflects into the outside world. So what we're thinking, what we're doing, and what's spinning in our heads is basically
Putting it out
affecting,
there.
putting out there, not the other way around. We always think, oh, the outside world makes me do that. No, it's that, and that has to also do again with the lot of our energy and how we work with it. The energy is it's there, and we need to realize that, and we can't be ignorant about that, and it affects, especially, if you and we need that spirituality. I mean, we come from spirituality. If you believe in that we did our soul contract, and before, I mean, the physical body wasn't first, and then our energy
Right.
came. The energy was there, then the physical body came, right? Now, from the physical body, our human field starts to wrap around. So, but we made a soul contract to come here and serve that purpose. And this we try, and that's why we get thrown off always. I mean, we are connected, if you want to be, and let's talk about the purpose of the line, the Hara line in the Eastern
Yeah,
philosophy
talk
says so.
about that.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, it is really this unbroken line of intentionality, which we've been covering a lot, that follows your power current through the body. So it follows your focal energy points, which are the chakras, really, and but it is deeper than the chakras. It is a lot deeper. Your Hara line, your purpose line, and it starts at your individuation point, which is about 3 to 5 feet above your head, which is your connection to the divine, is your connection to source, and it follows down to your basically your soul seat, which is where your thymus is, but it's not the thymus. It's layered around your thymus, just a little bit about your heart. And that was your soul seat, where your sacred purpose is, right? And then it goes down to the dantian. Again, martial arts use the dantian, which is below your belly button. That is your seat of your power, your balance, and so on. When you see the martial arts, they are always extremely power and balance. And then it goes all the way down to the earth. So you connect, and this line is, and if our physical body is on the third dimension. Obviously, we live in the third dimension. Our human field is on the fourth dimension, right? So it gets a little bit out there. So we're the fourth dimension is where emotions, our experiences, and our thoughts come into form and color and so on, and so on. And then the Hara line is on the fifth dimension, which is a place without fear. It's pure love and light. So this is where, when we come here, unfortunately, we forget what is our purpose. And that's why we become kids, or later in life, we have all these trauma and experiences and so on. But everything we do is everything we do starts with intention, right? So what is intention? It's a purpose to do something, to achieve something, a design or a task to accomplish something in life. So, however, and that's where we come into this negative energy. However, when our desire comes from fear, for example, let's say we are protecting, you're protecting yourself from the fear of the memories of child abuse. You are then basically thwarting your purpose, or your assigned intention, or why you came down on this place to all, because your desire to come with a spiritual longing to accomplish your purpose on this earth is at cross paths, as a cross purpose with the desire to protect yourself of or keep that fear at bay of that memory. So although you're thinking you want to do this and this, there is a different desire of intentionality, which is fear-based, which is really torpedoing you without really you knowing it, and you're staying in that frequency. I don't know how sure, maybe different explain. Maybe you're losing weight because you want to be you want to have, you want to be you want to go out again. You've had bad relationships. The relationships, you have traumatized you, and now you're losing weight. But your desire is actually to keep yourself from being hurt again in a relationship. So you'll never lose weight. You're going to be eating. So that is at the cross purpose fundamentally below that's hitting you. But we need to recognize them, and that's why I think we need to have awareness of where's what coming from, that will keep us away from those cross purposes that is holding us back to actually follow our spiritual longing to accomplish what we came here, why we are here. That then we live in authenticity without fear
That's
again.
exactly. And I think a real simplistic way to help people understand it is, you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Okay. So if we know that we have a lot of fears over our sexual abuse or whatever it was, we have to be aware of that, acknowledge it, and then say, I'm going to work with that till I have some peace. That's when you have to bring that duality in and start working with it with purpose. And that's that intention.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's how I see it.
No,
You've got to make it your friend and say, okay, this happened to me. What do I need to do to find peace with it and then let it go?
Yeah, excellent point. Letting
I
go and
don't
doing that.
need it anymore.
Exactly. And it's not, oh, let's forget about it, or, it never happened, or I can forgive that. No, it's not about that. It's about you forgiving yourself or you moving onward on that. Not
Forgive the
forget
person or whatever, but
whatever
just
it
say,
needs for you to
it
move on
doesn't
in
need to
your life.
define me anymore. I
Yeah,
don't
it
need to
doesn't.
be defined by that anymore. Because I don't know about you guys, but I find that sometimes people choose to hang on to their whatever, whether it's their abuse, their traumas that they went through, or somebody harming them, da 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 da, and use that as defining who they are.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
means because they haven't internally let it go,
Mm.
it keeps them from what they really
Well,
want.
they're using it as a crutch, Linda.
Yeah,
It's their
that's true.
crutch.
There you
And if they
go.
would just let that crutch go and start walking on their own, a lot of those problems and issues that keep coming up and keep resurfacing, in most cases, would probably go away. But they keep harping on it, by leaning on that crutch, and that's a problem. Society, really, if you want to come down to it, but that's another topic. But if they
Mhm.
just let those crutches go and move on from it, recognizing, as you guys said, but understanding how you got to this point and moving forward,
Yeah,
in most
because they
cases,
don't
people are
believe
better
in
off.
themselves. Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
believe.
true.
Yeah, no
They have no
confidence.
belief in
Yeah,
themselves,
that's right.
confidence, and this uncertainty will I manage? And that's a very good point there, Jimmy. And the other thing is they're always going back and they're living in the past, but they need to let
Yes.
go.
Yeah,
So it's always going back like this record, but that's not helping them move forward.
No,
not at
because
all.
our past is our past,
Yeah.
but and we can't change what was. All
No.
we can change is now.
Yeah,
That's right.
and that's right. And every time we all human. And do I live by what I do? No, I always fall to, and then I have to straighten myself up and say, hey,
Likewise.
you're not on the. I mean,
Lenny
Oh
and I
what
yeah,
the
talked
hell are
about
you
that
doing? You're
yesterday.
telling people this, you're coaching
daily.
this, and
I'd
you
say it's daily
suffer.
for the most part.
It's like, oh, please, yeah. So,
We were
so
talking about that yesterday, that,
it's
We
like,
were.
we tell
geez.
ourselves all this stuff
Uh,
and
Uh,
then,
uh,
then
But
oops.
that
the
moment
good
of
thing is,
weakness, it's gone.
yeah, yeah. But the good thing is that was a minute ago. That was yesterday. You can
Right.
move
Yeah.
forward now. That's a new day. It's a new
New
instant.
day.
It's a new second, and you can change anything in an instant. It shouldn't define you. So
Exactly.
easier said sometimes than done, of course. But that's just
Well,
so.
and you have to kind of get to the point that you can laugh at yourself, which
Well,
is,
that's important.
laugh at yourself, and you have to get to the point that life's a journey.
Mm.
So we can either participate in the journey and co-create a new reality with that journey, or we can let it happen to us.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
100%.
And the
I
more we
agree.
can make those choices with awareness, then that starts telling spirit and energy that we're awakening and we
Mhm.
can start, you know. So it's like I think we want people to understand that, okay, this happened. Horrible, horrible, horrible. What are we going to do about it? And are we going to move forward?
Mhm.
Are we going to carry that? And before you know it, we got all these stones beside us that we're carrying, and
Yeah,
we
yeah. It's
can't
like,
be light for anybody.
yep.
Hmm.
We don't have
Clean
it.
spoken. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so, I don't know. It's a
Look,
moment by moment thing.
we're humans, and that's why we're here, and we're always constantly learning. If we would be perfect, there would be no fun at it. Even, I mean, after our tribulations and hard times, we can laugh about it while we're going through. We're like, oh no, we don't want this. But I must say, I have rarely met somebody that had it. Oh, let me put it, rephrase it. Those that walked in sunshine the whole time, worked through their life, never had a problem, everything was given, they don't live in reality. They have not really lived. Those, though, that had really hard sufferings going through their lives and so on, though they were and came out of them, they were the very interesting person. They had foundations, they had authenticity because they have learned through these hard tests, and that is what defines it. And that is, I think, I truly believe why we're here on Earth. We set our whatever that is, and we want to learn, and we walk through them, and we got it. It helps us to be a better human and a better person, and evolve ourselves. But it doesn't mean that we fall and falter all the time again, because we're human. It's just how we are, So,
Right.
and we have to forgive ourselves for that, and we have to accept that. But we have to not then, I'll continue doing that even if I know it's bad. We have to just say, now I'm aware of it. I've learned that, and now I try to be better. And as long as we strive for that, I think we'll improve our positive energy. We'll develop our higher consciousness,
I think so
and,
too. I mean,
and
it's
be happier.
and
No.
be happy. I mean, I think, and tolerance. I mean, you need to be tolerant with yourself, and then that needs to expand to others. We have to develop that we're all unique, we're all different, and yeah, they may not think like I do, they may not act the way that I think that they should, but okay, I'm going to give you love and peace and grace and move on rather than hold on to it. I think we'd have a better world that we live in.
Yeah, we have so much more fun things to do than look and be always, because the moment we always think about that, the moment we always begrudge and we put this negative energy and that hate with that resentment into it, we live in that energy. So why would we even
Yeah,
want to be there?
we don't
Let's
understand
let's
it.
move out of it. But even if it was unfair, even if things that were done to us unfair, let's push it on. I mean, I had many things that have been done to me that were unfair, and I'm still something like, don't even go there. It doesn't deserve my energy. I'm moving forward. I can't change it anyway. It's a hard thing to do, but one can get there with trying to push it,
Well,
and then you just live so much lighter.
Lenny and I were talking the other day, I don't know about you, but that ego, when you've got a strong right brain, yeah, I have a left brain because that's where my creativity and stuff comes from. But because I'm an educator, there's that very strong right brain. So I'm finding myself having to talk to myself. Those thoughts come in because the ego is so strong, right? And then I'm having to say, I'm not listening. I'm not listening right now. I'm done.
Now,
I just want to hear it.
yeah,
Because
yeah, ego loves to take over, but. Uh, I firmly believe too. We need ego. We need ambition to a certain degree, right?
yeah,
Otherwise, we would be zombies.
or you
And
wouldn't
it has
accomplish
to
what you
be,
accomplish.
yeah. But we
No
have to.
character.
Yeah, no character, but we have to
Hmm.
keep it at bay. And I think the older we get, the more we become more spiritualists because we had more downfalls and experiences to get us there, and that's why we have a lot more tolerance. And we start, well, hopefully, most of us.
Yeah,
When
Yeah.
when I look around the world,
True.
it's so divided. I don't know. I question that
really,
sometimes, but we should. But
it's really scary.
uh,
So,
It
Lenny,
can be.
have you thought of anything else that you wanted to ask? Because I wanted to make sure you got your questions in.
Well, I'm a history guy, and you mentioned your grandparents. So were they the Bolshevik Revolution, Alex, in
The
Russia?
Bolsheviks, yeah, when the Bolsheviks
Yeah.
were pushing down, and the Red Army defeated the
Mm.
White Army. So the White Army was not White Russia; it was Tsaristic Russia. They had to flee. They were in the south, and they fled to. They had like a summer castle in Lithuania. That's where they fled to, and then obviously Stalin and the communist Soviets, and then they pushed in, so they had to
Well,
leave.
that was a brutal time period. I just read about that all the time. Seems like
Yeah.
piquing my interest as of late. And when you mentioned that earlier, just want to bring it up. Sorry, kind of
Yeah.
sidebar, but I'm a history guy, so somewhat.
Yeah, but I mean, Russia, has always. I mean, Russia was the common folk have always been ruled by a very hard fist. It has always been that way. Feudal Russia was probably the one of the toughest feudalism monarchies that were in Europe at the time.
Mm.
Then it went obviously to the Soviets, communists, which few people were privileged, the rest was
Oh
tough
yeah,
to live. Yeah. Now there was maybe a little short piece with Yeltsin in between, but now we have Putin there, who is got rid of most of the oligarchs, and those
yeah.
that
It seems like
stay
it's
don't pay
okay these
taxes,
days.
they help him, but Some said, yeah, well, that's what Russia's history is about. If you don't rule them with a hard hand, they won't. But I don't know if that is, I
Yeah, I'm
follow
not sure
that
about that
rule.
either.
That is
Sounds
not
like
the way to do
propaganda to
it.
me, man.
Yeah. So, um,
Interesting.
Russia, though, I have to say, I mean, the Russian people, and it's really a shame what's going on. And that's how it always is. The world at the moment is hijacked by individuals in different governments
Just like us.
and basically through that. The Russian people are probably one of the most nicest, friendliest,
Hmm.
and educated and music. I was invited always within family, very family oriented and amazing people actually.
Oh yeah.
And once you look at that, I mean, I'm sure they're not happy to go into Ukraine, which actually are their brothers, and try to shoot them. So
No,
it's
Tough
it's it's it's
situation, but
yeah,
it had to be
it's really
done.
sad what's going on. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's very sad.
Well, thanks for the background on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't been there. Last time I was back, so I mean, just reverting back to the beginning,
I want to go to.
graduate.
I want to go to Russia. I really do.
Yeah,
Really
I
do.
kind of brought up my company again. I sold it, so I haven't been back since 2005. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sure
That's
that
been
a
a
lot of
while then.
change. Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a while. Yeah, well, I wanted to do, but then the war thing came, and
Mhm.
so. But I'm looking forward, hopefully, at some point, to get back.
That'd be nice.
Right on, man.
Always
My
nice.
only other point I'm going to make is just I really just like your comment and your theme of intentionality.
Mhm.
And I've kind of I've taken notes, and it's like intentional vibration. So you have to be intentional with your positive frequency,
Mhm.
and you could also be intentional the other way with it on a negative frequency, right? So
Mhm.
you have to have intention with it, and that's so key. That's what I'm going to leave the audience today. Have intention with positivity and higher vibrations,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
it's not easy, but you have to work on it.
Right.
So
Well, piggybacking on that, then maybe you could make that into what would be one intentional thing that you could focus on or do
mm,
this week.
Mhm.
I like that.
Yep.
We always like to leave them with something. So Alex, do you have any thoughts about something you'd like them to?
Intend to have self-love for yourself.
Mm,
Mm.
good. Yeah, very much so.
Seems so simple, but so many people don't.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's the other thing is we live in a society where we think everything has to have a big impact, right? Everything that one does has to be boom boom and
Yeah, it's so
so,
true.
And perfect.
yeah, and perfect. But in all reality, it is really the small little things, the unknown that we perceive as unknown, the very small things that have the biggest impact, the smallest things we do that
Hit
change
it.
them, right?
Well,
Those
and
are
learn
facts.
learn to learn to appreciate every new little thing that you do. I mean, and I'll just give myself as an example. I've always loved to write. That's never been a problem, but who would have ever thought that it would transform into music
Mhm. Nope.
and then land on worldwide platforms? I mean, at my age, who would have, you know? So
I
just
can do anything at any age. That's my belief.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
matter. It
agree.
does not matter about age, time. It's what you do with intention and what you focus on.
Yep.
Because you can't, it's actually this quote that I've always loved is what you think about, you bring about.
Mhm.
And I've used that with my teachers that I train. All of that is just remember that whatever you think about, you bring about. And so it goes back to, intentionality, it goes back to positivity, it goes back to we co-create our reality.
Yep.
Agreed.
Exactly.
And
Well,
I don't know about Lenny, but I'm just so grateful that you said yes. And I hope you say yes again when we
I will.
approach you in the fall
oh, I'm very, very appreciative.
Yeah.
that we'll do. So this is episode 7, and Alex is our last guest, just to let everybody know. The next podcast next weekend will be the last one that we're going to do for the season, and that's Lenny and I's relationship. So the people, because
The
I know,
grand finale.
The grand
Grand
finale.
finale.
We'll continue with little illuminations through the summer, and then we'll have guests again from September to December. But
That's the plan.
that's the plan anyway. And
Everybody has a plan though until they get punched in the mouth.
yeah, or until it
They gotta-
changes.
Well,
Mike
I
Tyson.
enjoyed very much being on your show. It was a pleasure. It
Thank
was
you, sir.
fun.
Likewise.
You know, it always has to be fun, and I think that's what also
For
like,
sure.
really have
Yeah,
joy and fun about it. So thank
it's
you
been
for
too
having me.
long, it's been too long since we've been able to be together. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that you were here today.
Thank
Very
you.
much so.
All
Thank
right.
you, Alex.
So we
Appreciate you
will-
both.
Man.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
See ya.